Record. All right, guys, this is your boy Trey with Let's Just Talk Stories, and we're here again with Kara. This is a back to back. She's been on here now for about an hour and a half. We kind of are going through different segments of my brand because, as you guys know, it's multiple different podcasts that I kind of talk about or topics I talk about. And so this is catering to my Let's Just Talk Stories podcast, and Kara is the first person to actually come on and actually share a story with us. I've had a few people do it, or actually I've had one person do it for this particular podcast, but it was more like through voice notes. But you're the first person to come on Zoom and actually share a story. But before I give you the mic, I'll just let people know that she's going to be sharing with us a sensitive topic here. And in Kara, even with your story, not to say that you can't be real or authentic, but I would say maybe for the sake of like TikTok and like the posting, I think the S word is okay, but I think that word can kind of get you like banned or like something,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
will. I
Yeah.
will.
Okay, you
I
know.
will be sensitive.
Okay, yeah, because like literally I've talked about it a few times on live, and I've had like TikTok actually pop in and be like, we're worried about you.
Yeah, I don't want. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I just want to make sure you kind of understood what I was saying. But thank you again for sharing this story. I know that you're gonna, be pretty real. So I'll let you have the floor and you can share as much of it as you want to, and whatever you don't want to share, you don't have to. But yeah, you can take us back into the story.
All right. Well, uh, let's see. So what I had joined the army, in 2018, and this was also at a time when my marriage was fairly rocky. My ex had um in June of 2018 had told me that he was no longer in love with me and wanted to think about a divorce. But he also didn't at the same time because of like religious aspects. And I was just like really devastated. He gave me some ultimatums of like, if I become like this, within like 6 months, if I change basically my personality and become better, then we'll stay married. And at the time, I was still pretty insecure, very, yeah, just not like fully into myself yet. And so I was devastated. And when that news had hit me, it was the first time I really kind of thought about um not being here anymore. And had actually, had a thought of um taking
Oh,
the knives and taking the knives in my kitchen and doing something with them.
mm-hmm,
I didn't um at that point.
mm-hmm.
Then I chose to join the army to just have a to show him that I had initiative,
Yeah.
um like because that's like what he wanted to see, like, or whatever. He wanted me to like make money, be ambitious, do whatever. So I joined the army for that
Mm-hmm.
reason, and partly that reason, and then partly for myself, because I was like, well, if something happens, like if we end up not being married anymore, then at least I'll have something like to like for myself that will
Yeah.
like back me up, or like,
Fall
like
back on.
pay the bills,
Mm-hmm.
and like I can
Mm-hmm.
fall back on and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is like my actual attempt didn't happen until 2020.
Okay.
So, but this is like a backstory
Mm-hmm.
to the event.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I joined the army. I go to basic training. um, doing the stuff.
Mhm.
I get injured
Mhm.
in basic, um, and I have to be sent home like it was like a month before, no, just a couple weeks before I would have graduated
Mm.
in basic. I got
Oh.
sent home on convalescent leave to heal for a month.
Mhm.
And then I came back
Mhm.
after the convalescent leave, was on physical therapy
Mhm.
to like get myself back so that I could finish. I only had one thing left to do to
Wow.
graduate.
Mm.
So I got back into it. I did the physical therapy. I did the whole process that took like 3 more months there to like
Wow.
really recuperate. I
Mm.
finally got cleared to go back to finish basic.
Okay.
I finished it and graduated at the end of August
Wow.
in 2019. Um, then I moved on to my training, my job training
Okay.
in and I had just missed the cutoff for like my class to start, so I
Yeah.
was in a hold position, just kind
Mhm.
of did what you do while you're
Mhm.
waiting in the
Yeah.
army,
Mhm.
exercise, clean,
Mhm.
all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I got
Mhm.
re-injured right
Mm.
before my class started at the same place.
Wow.
But I did my class with like crutches and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then right before I'm supposed to graduate,
Yeah.
um, phase one of my class, because going I was in training for to be a surgical tech.
Okay. Wow.
Um, and I had graduated phase one
Mm.
as like the third of my class.
Wow. Ooh. Okay.
Uh, and I did really well.
Mm.
But so February of 2020, this is when things are like kind of crazy, like with
Mm.
COVID starting and all that
Yep.
stuff
Mhm.
as well. And my ex was having real bad anxiety and having real bad like stuff. Um, oh, I guess before that,
Mm.
um, we had helped one of his um I know that you know, but I don't necessarily want to um out them
Yeah.
in this setting. So I'm
Mhm.
just gonna say a close friend
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
uh from an abusive like really an abusive marriage
Mhm.
themselves. So we had moved them into our home,
Mhm.
um and that was like before I had moved to basic.
Yeah.
And so like we were helping this close friend of his, and I was close to them
Mhm.
as well through
Mhm.
him
Mhm.
um with this situation. And so that had happened. So they were living, um and then she ended up getting a boyfriend,
Mhm.
and he ended up moving in uh to the house with my ex
Mhm.
while I was away. Um and so like he was just having troubles with them, I guess, and
Mhm.
like there was just a lot of stuff happening, and he was having anxiety with COVID and like just nervous about, and there was also just I think there was just a lot of tensions going on
Yeah. Mhm.
at the time.
Mhm.
And he ended up, well, so I had just found out that I wasn't able to move on to phase two of my training,
Mhm.
um, because I was still on crutches. I was trying to get better. I was trying to get out.
Yeah.
Um, and so then they finally did an MRI on my knee, and that's when they found out that I needed surgery
Wow.
on it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was supposed to be scheduled for surgery in April. That was like the earliest they had.
Okay.
But in February was when my ex called me to tell me that he had cheated on me with this close friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he had said that um, it was while I was still living there, like right before basic. So I had really no idea. But
Wow.
he was like, but um, he was like, it ended when you left for basic, you know. I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's supposed to make it better, but
Right.
all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and then yeah, so that was just like a really like so it was like I already had like I was like
Yeah.
I have to have surgery
Mm-hmm.
and well at that point like cuz he was calling me because he was like worried because they wanted to move out and I
Mm-hmm.
was and like he wanted he was kicking out the boyfriend because something had happened
Right.
and she wanted to move with him. And
Mm-hmm.
like at first because he hadn't told me about the cheating I was like, well, I mean, it is her decision because she's an adult, you know, like
Yeah.
if she wants to move, she can move. But
Yeah.
at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, like, you know, like I get that you're trying, like, think like you're trying to protect her or whatever from like a
Mm-hmm.
situation that you see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then when he told me that he cheated on me with her, well, I was like, well, obviously she has to leave. Like,
Yeah. Like.
like, um,
Right.
there's no choice now. Like
No.
she's gone
Yeah. Yeah.
with them. So yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
moved out. Um and then I'm supposed to get my surgery in April of 2020, but because of COVID, and since it was like my knee and not like something major, all like elective surgeries were canceled. So that my surgery got canceled, got postponed until finally in June they were doing surgeries again and I was able to get permission for like I wasn't able to go to be with him in Minnesota. That's where we used to live.
Mm-hmm.
Um and because of COVID and there was riots going on at the time and all that stuff. But they did allow him to come down and stay with me at like a I don't remember the name, but some kind of like house near the hospital where
Mm-hmm.
I could
Okay.
recover for like
Yeah.
a and so yeah, so it was during that time
Mm-hmm.
that while I was on this leave that we just kept having our usual just arguments basically of like I wasn't changing the way that he wanted me to.
Yeah.
I wasn't changing the way he wanted me to. And he's like, I can't trust your word because you say this and then you don't change.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was like, well, I also have trust issues with you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I had brought that like this up and he was just like, well, like you said you forgave me, like you can't keep bringing that up, like you can't like, you know, all that stuff. And it's like I'm not trying to bring it up like in a way that's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you that we both have trust
Yeah.
that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Um, and there was just like a moment like when we were having this really bad argument. It was really close to me having to go back into the training environment again. Jack,
Ah.
this is Jack. Now he wants attention. Um,
Okay. Man, they look almost similar. Almost very similar.
yeah, they're very similar.
Mm.
But yeah, it was like during one of those like moments where it was
Yeah.
just like it was so close to me going back into that environment of just like where you just sometimes don't feel like people care.
Yeah.
You know, like they
Mm-hmm.
do, they do. There's really great people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had really great sergeants and like people above me and like I've you know, but there's also just bad
Mm-hmm.
stuff and just a lot
Mm-hmm.
of emotions, just a lot of things like
Mm-hmm.
where you're just like I just feel so done.
Yeah.
Like I'm done.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
just want to be here. I don't want to like have the same arguments with you.
Yeah.
I don't I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here. So I like went off into the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
He's off, like, huffing and puffing because
Mm-hmm.
we just had a fight. And I just went to the bathroom and I had on this like robe, and like I'm still like recovering from the surgery, but like, and I just tried to choke myself.
Wow.
Um and with the strings on this robe, and I just was pulling harder and harder and harder.
Wow.
And then I just had this voice in my head
Mm-hmm.
that was like you don't want to do this to your family.
Mm-hmm.
Like 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 you don't want to do this to your family. Like because I've known people who have um you know gone from this world
By
doing
self-harm.
doing
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah.
And just like the questions that the family has at the end,
Mm-hmm.
like they're like, what could have I done? Like,
Yeah.
why did they do this? Like, like just all those questions that people have um from it. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that to him.
Yep.
I can't do that to my mom, my dad, my sisters. Like I can't. And then also it's just like I have so much. And then like that was my first initial like thought that came. And then the second one that came after was like, it was like this voice that was like, and you have so much to give. Like
Wow.
you have so much, like you are worth more than this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I believed that. Like that
Mm-hmm.
one wasn't the one that made me stop.
Yeah.
Like it was there, but that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't what made me stop. What made me
Mm-hmm.
stop before was the first one.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
like because like I mean, I'm a recovering people pleaser, but like,
Yeah.
like that was my
Like leaving
strength,
them.
and
Yeah.
that was my reason at that moment. And I honestly feel like I feel like God did that on purpose,
Mm.
used that
Use
on
that to
purpose
stop you.
to
Yeah.
like have it stop,
Yeah.
have that be the thing that stopped me first,
Wow.
but then also told me the truth
Yeah. You are so much
second.
worth.
Like
Yeah.
you are worthy. Like,
Facts.
so remember this. Even though this isn't the reason you're stopping. I know that. Like this isn't the reason you're stopping. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first one is because I know what what makes you tick at this moment because I know
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
But like remember the second part.
Mm-hmm.
Later on you'll believe it. Right
Yeah.
now you don't.
Yeah.
Like that's what I truly believe was why that was the first thing said.
Yeah.
And it did stop me. And then I went out, let him know what happened. And he was semi comforting, but also just like, are you trying to manipulate me? Are you trying to like stop the argument, like by having this happen, like by telling me this,
Wow. Wow.
I'm like,
So you had told him
no,
you at this point you had told him that you tried to harm
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. Um, and yeah, but then after that, like it was shortly after that that I got back to my unit. He went back home, and and then I told, you know, um those that were above me about it
Mm-hmm.
and got the help
Wow.
that I needed.
Wow. Wow.
Um
You told the army
yeah.
about this. Wow.
Yeah, my like um those those in command of me that I trusted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked to them and they helped me get the help. I mean, I was in like a medical unit, so like there's mental health
Yeah.
people,
Mm-hmm.
like all of that. So like they
Mm-hmm.
were definitely a lot more like more willing to have you get help
Mm-hmm. Wow.
than in some like I know some units are not,
Yeah.
but
That's what I was
definitely this
thinking.
one was,
Wow.
um mostly because they were medical.
Wow.
So yeah, so I was able to get help. I did eventually go to for a weekend when I had some, thoughts again. just still processing and still trying to like figure out stuff. When I
Yeah.
had thoughts again,
Mhm.
I did end up going to a psychiatric unit
Okay.
and was in the hospital it was for me, it was only a weekend and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
Um, but I was also in a unit of like, you know, soldiers that were dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and it was in that time also that I had to kind of remind some of them, like there were some soldiers that would be like anybody that went to that particular psychiatric unit, they would be labeled as crazy or this or that by some people. And I was like, you do know that I went there, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like they would look at me and they're like, what, you? Like, no, like, and I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
you can't
Yeah.
judge somebody. You don't
Mhm.
know. You don't know
Mhm.
what they're going through. You don't know. Like you can't just judge somebody by what they look like.
Yeah.
Sure, I have like an optimistic
Mhm.
demeanor, but at the same time, like there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story.
That was heavy. That was heavy. I mean, I was not expecting the tears, and I no, but I love them, in that I love the realness that comes with your story, the emotions, and I see that they're still there, you know. And so, let me ask you this question: Do you feel like that moment will forever haunt you? Or do you feel like you've forgiven yourself, or God has in a sense allowed you to you know relinquish that level of maybe guilt of, man, what would they think if I left, if I harm myself, and yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I think I've forgiven myself
Okay.
for that. Um, I mean, it's definitely, yeah, I think that guilt has been, and I've also talked to like my family about this. Like it hasn't like,
Beautiful. Hmm.
um, I mean not, like my close family, my
Yeah.
immediate family, like,
Yeah. Hmm.
not everybody knows, but yeah, like those people do. And so like I mean they check on me sometimes, not all like not all the time. They definitely know I'm in a much better place. I'm not in a place like I was.
Yeah.
But um but I think like being able to have been real with them and being able to have talked to them about like this really happened and this is where I was at. Like
Mhm.
um and so yeah, I think um and in some cases it did take like I mean, it brought a sense of healing to the family too, is just being able to be like,
Absolutely.
okay, like what
Yeah.
could I have done? Or like, is
Hmm.
there something I
Hmm.
could have done too? And
Yep.
some of it is just saying like no. Some of it is like, no, it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Like some of it
Hmm.
is also like, no, it wasn't your fault. Like this is just where I was at.
Yeah.
And being able to like, I guess take the guilt off of them because, we also can't necessarily put that guilt on ourselves. And like with me going into like I'm taking classes to become a therapist, to become
Yeah.
a counselor,
Hmm.
and there's going to be times when like we have to like advocate for
Yeah.
people who are in those positions. But
Hmm.
also like one of my professors in the last class told me a story about where she advocated,
Wow.
but the psych the psychiatrist on duty said no, that person isn't a risk, and they sent them home, and they committed, they did it. And so like she felt real guilty, but at the same time she did everything she could.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Hmm.
do all you can and there's still somebody else in the way.
Yeah. Hmm. That's true. That's true. So in a sense, your ideology behind it is to not beat yourself up, or to promote that the other people who are impacted by someone who may self harm also not beat themselves up, with the aspect of like, oh, I should
Yeah.
have done this, or if I only had done this, you shouldn't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah. mean, definitely you can take time to reflect and figure out like what you
Thanks.
could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
Hmm.
things that you can reflect on, but at the same time, we can't change the past. We can't change what happened. You can't change that. You can only move forward from it. So in learning from it, learning from those things and being available for other people, and just like I
Yeah.
would tell like the other soldiers who would like, you know, try to judge
Yeah.
those, is be like, look, you don't know what's going on in their life. And so like instead of judging them for having to go there, like maybe praise them for taking the chance, like for taking the step to get better,
Hmm.
you know, like the courage it takes to put yourself in that place.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're forced there,
Yeah.
like, you know, especially in that situation, like in that type of situation, sometimes you're forced there, but at the same time, there's still courage in having to like you have to take those steps. You have to take that like those processes
Mm,
to talk about it, to like
mm,
to
mm.
get through it, to try to work through
Mm.
the things and the baggage that's holding you back.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
so and working through those. And for me, I mean, my faith kept me alive. My faith has kept me going.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people, and it honestly has always made me angry where there's people that think that if someone does this act, that they are damned, like they're
Mhm,
sent,
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
and 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 I just I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I
Mhm.
don't, you know, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a whole nother topic that's just like, but
Yeah.
that's like where I'm
Mhm,
at because it's like I was there, like
mhm,
I've been there,
mhm,
and I like, you know, you can get so discouraged. And yes, my faith brought me out of it. Yes, I believe God spoke to me and said those things, and it made me stop. But at the same time, I don't think that if you had a faith before, that it just goes away in an instant
mhm,
because of that moment.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's man. Like talk about layers. This is this story right here. Um, you got people in the comments on TikTok talking, they're like reaching out. But this story right here, I think you sharing it rather. Let me just start there. I think the reason why it's so impactful to me is because, like you said, so many people have done it, or they try to, or they will,
Mhm.
and they will be so many of them will be successful. So you sharing and coming on and sharing your story about your personal experience with trying to self harm and you getting out of it, and now it seemingly being something that you don't struggle with anymore, um or something that you like have a hard time with now. I think that's beautiful. I think that for people who are listening, they can resonate with you so well because you just are an open book. You are a freaking open book. Like you really tear the layers back and allow people to see underneath each layer. It's like, you allow people to see what's underneath. And I think this story was just that. It was nothing short of letting people or exposing people to a story that you hold truly and deeply, to yourself as well as to your faith. Those things are not easy things to talk about. So I commend you for that. I commend you for taking out that time to share and showcase, and um, allowing me to be someone also that is able to take a peek into someone else experience in a way that I never have. I've never experienced that, but you haven't experienced that. You have allowed me to take a peek into it, and so this was incredible. Let me see. Look at the time real quick. Okay, so we're just about nearing 30. Um, I guess I'll have one more question for you, if you don't mind, before we close out.
Mhm.
What would you tell someone who is struggling with that right now? Someone who's listening right now.
So what I would tell you is you have to find you have to find like your why. For me, I mean, I can tell you that you're worthy. I can tell you that you have a lot to give in this world. And like me, you might not believe it like right away, but like you have to figure out like what is something or someone that you couldn't see living without or living without you. Like what is like you don't necessarily understand the impact that you make on the people around you. Like you don't understand the ripple effect that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might feel like you're insignificant. You might feel like you don't matter. You might feel like you've done too many horrible things. Like, and so like nobody's gonna miss me.
Yeah.
But but that's not true. You don't know that. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know who's gonna miss you. You don't know who it looks at you like like you're something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't know the impact that you have. And so if you are in that place, I honestly would encourage you to seek help. There is, there's hotlines, there's, you know, go to the emergency room. Um, there's so many resources. And so just utilize those because it can be helpful.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for answering that question. I thought it was only fair and only right to end off, this segment with that, because so many people will hear what you said and they will see themselves in your story. Um, and some of them will be successful, and that's the sad part about it. A lot of people are successful in going through with it. So, Kara, I thank you for that. Very touching. That was a very, I've shared a few stories on my Let's Just Talk Stories podcast. One being like my car incident. So that was like a near death experience, and I just recently shared a scary Christmas one. That was also something that, two separate events that were very, maybe in some sense, I don't want to say traumatizing, but they very much so left a mark.
Yeah.
Um, but for your story and for you to come on here and this be your first story, this be what you want to share with me and the podcast is incredible. I commend you. A lot of people don't want to talk about self-harm, but I think more people need to talk about it because it raises the awareness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing the statistics of successful people who go through successfully. So you being someone who didn't go through all the way with it, by the grace of God, like he now has have you on here to talk about it, I think. So,
Yeah.
you know, so I truly and gratefully appreciate you in regards to that. Is there anything else you want to say before we transition over to the fitness?
I don't think so. I think I covered, yeah, I think that's it.
All right. I want to make sure I, didn't leave anything out or allowed you to put everything on the table that you wanted to share because this is your story.
Yeah, I think I covered it.
Okay. All right, guys. TikTok, y'all heard it, man. Again, Kara, she's still with us. We have one more segment that we're gonna dive into. But before we end it, again, I want to thank y'all so much for staying on. YouTube, as you all know, you're gonna be seeing these in rapid succession back to back. And so, Kara again is still hanging in with us, but this is Let's Just Talk Stories. We're closing out on this, man, and we're gonna transition over, I guess, into Let's Just Talk Fitness.
Sure.
All right. So, with that said, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for standing and listening on TikTok, YouTube, as you guys know. Until next time, peace.